Hello, my name is Vicki Malta, and this is You and Your Mental Wellness. Um, Tonight we have a guest on named Amina Hines, and she is a recovery educator at Greater Bridgeport Mental Health Center. And before I start asking questions about just her background and things like that, I just want to say that we met each other at a conference about 3 months ago called Alternatives. And it just makes the alternatives conferences have been going on a long time, for at least 25 years, and they have them all over the country. And the whole purpose of these alternatives conferences is to have people in recovery from mental health issues to get together and to be empowered and to support each other. And I've been to a few. I went to one in Nashville, Pittsburgh, Berkeley, and they're always really great to see people that are doing really well in their lives. And so Amina and I went to a alternatives conference in Austin, Texas, and it was a really great experience. What do you remember about it?
Well, first of all, I didn't realize the magnitude of the movement and seeing people from all over the country that just, awakened me to the fact that it was a big deal. But what I remember most is there was a class or a class about leadership, and they talked about the different types of leadership that is out there. And for me, I always thought the traditional model was, what people look for in a leader, and that's all the masculine qualities, you know, and in this class, they advocated for using more feminine qualities, and so that was an eye opener for me. Um, I also remember the health fair, and I remember some of these people talking about the movement, how far they came, you know. So and the food was great too.
Yeah, yeah. I remember, speaking of leaders, do you know Ronna Kyle? Yeah, you know
Yes.
Ronna Kyle. Well, on her email that she sends out to everybody, she talks about leaders and it says, the function of a leader is to create more leaders or to inspire more leaders, not more followers. And I
Yes.
really like that a lot, because there's some people who are leaders that just want to take total control and have everybody be kind of passive and, have the leader do all the work. And so I really liked that quote. I forget where she got that from, but I really agree with that too. So anyway, in your work as a recovery educator, why don't you just talk about some of the different classes that you teach, and we'll start with that.
Okay. So the first class that we started teaching is RAP, and that stands for Wellness Recovery Action Plan. And that class was designed by Mary Ellen Copeland. And that basically teaches people how to manage symptoms. And you come up with a recovery plan. And it's like an insurance policy, I always say, so that, we hope that if you identify your triggers and action plans, you won't ever have to go to the hospital again. But if you do, then it's a way to ensure that your rights and the things that you wish to have done for you are put in place. Then there's peer employment training, which was the next class that we started offering where I work. And that teaches people how to, work with their peers. And that's a person with lived experience, a person in recovery. And we cover the whole gamut. We cover conflict resolution skills, communication skills. Um, we talk about being with people in difficult situations, like if they're having suicidal thoughts or they indulge in self harm, if they're hearing voices. So it's a really good class that builds your skills and your confidence. Then I also teach a class called Pathways to Recovery, which was started by Priscilla Ridgway and Kansas University. And that was an excellent class. That is, it's like rap in the sense that it teaches you how to, you know, move forward in your recovery, but it delves a little deeper. It's a strengths-based program, and you identify 8 domains of life, and you identify goals in those 8 domains, and you use your strengths to achieve these goals. So some of the domains that it covers include housing, education, employment, wellness, spirituality, sexuality, even things like of recreation. So you identify goals in all those areas. Then we teach Self-Esteem 101, and that's a good class. It's very popular. And we just talk about, where does self-esteem come from? How do you build positive self-esteem? What are some signs of low self-esteem? We talk about codependent relationships. And finally, there's adult enrichment. And that's a class that's really teaching people how to be a successful student, because we have a lot of folks who need to go back to get their GED. So that's a real hands-on practical skills class, like test taking, note taking, things like that. But I am being trained currently to take a class called Hearing Voices. So what a person experiences that has auditory hallucinations. And we're going to offer that training once I'm trained where I work.
Are you going to be giving them, because I know something about that, where are you going to have them have earphones and have them listen to voices while they do different activities? Is that pretty much what, because I took a training in that, and that's what we had to do, and it was kind of hard to take, because to have to live with that, constant sounds and noises and voices while you're trying to concentrate and do what you have to do every day. It was very hard for me. I got confused, and but are you going to be doing that with the audio of that?
That's what I'm told that the class is. I don't know what kind of resources we're going to have yet. I'm assuming that we'll have to, give people the headphones.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now for rap, where I work, we teach rap too. We teach rap for work and rap for school, because I work with people. I'm a career development peer specialist, so I work in this program called the Graduate Club. And we work with people who've been working for a while or who have been in school successfully for a while. But just like you said, you take control over things that cause symptoms, and a lot of times school and work are stressful. So what can you do when a symptom comes up? And I also wanted to say that in terms of, like, if a person does have to go into the hospital, there's so many things that people don't even think about, like who's going to feed my cat or my dog, or who's going to water my plants, who's going to get my mail, who do I want as a doctor, who don't I want to visit me, and what hospital do I want to go to. So, I think rap is great. I think it's a wonderful tool to use. And so anyway, so you've been doing this for 7 years, since 2007, and you said that you've taught 600 or 700 people over the years.
Yes.
That's amazing. And are you able to see these people pretty much, like, off and on, or most of those the people still living in the area, or?
Well, it's funny because some people I have been around from the beginning. Some people come and then they go, they move on, and now we're getting new faces. So it fluctuates. We've toyed with the idea of having a reunion, for the different various classes that we teach, so that but a lot of times people's numbers change very often, so it's been difficult to keep up with some of the folks that have gone through. Some people just came in for a couple of classes and you don't see them again. And some people take all the classes and they want more.
Right.
So it's a spectrum, and a lot of the folks that do come through the classes end up working in our work training program.
Oh, that's great.
So,
well, and we were talking about this earlier too. You were saying how before you got involved with this peer educating, you were a teacher before that, and it was really, really different for you. You were a high school teacher, and what were the differences between then and now, what you're doing now?
well, I was much younger then, but mainly when I taught high school students, I had a captive audience, and I had to be the disciplinarian. That was the downside to the job. Now I see it as I have a lot more flexibility and room for creativity, and people actually want to be there, so it's very refreshing. And I get as much from the folks that I teach as they probably get from me, and it's very rewarding now.
It's a lot more meaningful, and
yeah, because you see people growing right before your eyes. I had one woman, she was afraid of going back to school, and she didn't want to go. She started taking a class at Housatonic. She was afraid of the parking lot, and she started taking the class there, that the peer employment training that I taught, and it built up her confidence, and she decided to take more classes, and she went on for her degree. So you see a lot of growth. I see a lot of growth teaching these classes, and so that's the major difference.
yeah, I think Connecticut is kind of on the forefront of offering these kind of programs and classes for people. It's too bad they don't have these classes, all over the country or all over the world, because they're so important, for a person to recover, and so speaking of recovery, like, what's your definition of recovery, and how did you get to the point where you were able to get your life back, or just
Well, I believe that, I've been exposed to a lot of definitions of recovery. In fact, one of the definitions that we teach in peer employment training is that it's remembering who you are and using your strengths to become all you're meant to be. But personally, I feel that, the definition of recovery is so vast, and it's personal, it's different for everyone. I feel that it's the ability to do what your heart desires, to be what you want to be in spite of having a mental illness, and that it doesn't have to. It's just the mental illness is just like a bump in the road. You can go around it, you can go over it. If sometimes you have to go through it.
right, yeah,
But, and it's not a failure on your part if you have a mental illness or you have to reach out for help or support, so.
So what kind of personality characteristics do you think, like, for you personally, how do you feel that you've changed since you've been through something really difficult, and how have you changed, do you feel?
Um, I would say that some of the major changes are that I think I'm more compassionate, more patient, more flexible. I got in touch with my creative side more. And one of the other things that I notice is that when I need help, I'm more apt to reach out and ask for it.
Hmm.
Whereas in the past, I never liked to ask for help, and I always wait till things got, pretty bad,
Yeah.
crisis mode, and till I had no choice but
Hmm.
to ask for help.
Were you ever taught that like asking for help is a weakness, a sign of weakness? Because so many people in this country think that it is, but I think it's a sign of strength to ask for help.
It is a sign of strength, and I know I don't recall anyone ever telling me that, but somewhere I got that message. Um, and so it's maybe sometimes it's not wanting to be indebted to others also,
Or be a burden, you
or be a
mean?
burden,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's I think it's too bad because I think if people were more authentic with each other, they'd find they have a lot more in common with each other through even hard times than instead of holding back, and there'd be more connection and but I think that's great that you know, you've become like a better person and um, so just going back for a minute, uh, before you were involved with Bridgeport Mental Health Center, what did you do before that? Like, how did you get to that stepping stone of Bridgeport Mental Health Center? Did you just you you were working as a peer engagement specialist and um, at Norwalk Hospital, and what were you doing there?
Well, actually, I found out I wasn't after being a teacher when I got ill, and then I was a librarian. BRS helped me to get connected there. What happened was through a clubhouse called Laurel House in Stamford, who I always attribute a lot of my recovery to. They set me in the right direction. They told me about the peer engagement specialist position at Norwalk Hospital, and it was the first time it was being offered. And basically, I would go on the inpatient units, sit with folks, talk with them, engage them, play cards with them, help run groups, and it was really rewarding, very rewarding,
Hmm.
because one thing about consumers or persons in recovery is they'll tell you if you're doing a good job, and they'll tell you if you're not. So, they would show their appreciation, and it was very refreshing. So,
Yeah, yeah. So they were honest
yeah.
with you. Now, talking about stigma and diagnoses and things like that, um, do you feel that we have a long way to go still to for people to, um, you know, be people with mental health issues to be accepted by society and um, just not put on the margins anymore? Or do
Hmm.
you think we still have a long way to go? Or
Well, to be honest, I have seen a lot of changes in just short 7 years, actually 10 years, because I was doing the peer engagement for 3 years. However, it, it's hard to say. I do feel personally that we still have a long ways to go, just because the way things are portrayed in the media, when things go wrong, people still have a lot of misconceptions about people with mental illness.
mm-hmm.
Um, and there's still a lot of stigma out there. And like you said, there's still a lot of marginalization. And until people are able to afford decent housing, get have access to good jobs and all the things that everyone else wants, I think we do have a long way to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And I want to just ask you some personal questions about just your background a little bit. You have a degree in, you have a master's degree in business, and you went to Hong Kong, and that's interesting. Did you have to do a project in Hong Kong or a bit related to your school or?
yeah, the requirement for graduation for my master's was to go on this trip and interview a business owner. And we had to write a 40-page paper on it. I didn't have to do it all myself. I only had to write 10 pages because there was 4 of us in the group. It was phenomenal. I really enjoyed myself. I learned a lot. They had different businesses come and do presentations for us, and we even went to Disneyland in Hong Kong.
Really?
Yeah. So,
What's the weather like there?
we went in December. It was pretty much warm, but there's a lot of smog.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of
yeah.
pollution there.
It's I don't even know. Is it about as big as New York City or I think because I don't know. I can't imagine how big Hong Kong is, but it must be huge. If they have a lot of smog and stuff like that, too.
Yeah, it's very condensed. A lot of people in small space, and it's I don't know. It's beautiful. Don't get me wrong, and it's very clean. But I like my home.
Yeah. Yeah. But that must have taken a lot of courage. You have a lot of courage.
Oh, thank
You
you.
have a lot of courage to be able to go to Hong Kong, a totally different culture. You have a lot of courage to stand in front of people and teach them about recovery. And, courage is such an important thing to have to, not everybody has that, but I see that in you, that you're very courageous. And even by going to this alternatives conference, you didn't really know, what it was going to be about. You didn't know really anybody, and then you had that friend of yours kind of help you along, and the two of you really had a good time. And so I think that's important to remember about yourself. And now some of the other things, I don't think we have too much time left, but so we're going to have to wrap up pretty soon. But I just wanted to cover a couple quick things too. You have 3 children. You have a 24-year-old son and 15 and 17-year-old daughters. On top of everything you do, and you enjoy home decorating shows.
Yes.
How did that get started?
You know what? I've always loved interior design. In fact, when I was in college, undergraduate school, I did a home study course for interior design. But my favorite shows are Love It or List It and Property Brothers. So like on Mondays and Wednesdays, I do the marathon and watch it all night, or I record it. So
And then someday you want to be a full-time flipper of houses.
yes.
That would be. Would you want to do it around here, or where would you want to do it? Just.
Yeah, in Fairfield County. I know it's an expensive area, but it's.
Well, it would be lucrative, and that would be great. And so there's 2 more things if we have time. You said 2 things, 2 aspects of your recovery were work and spirituality. So you want to talk a little bit about that too, like how work has impacted your recovery and how spirituality has too?
Yes, spirituality has played a big part in my recovery. Because the medication can only take you but so far. And with the medication alone, sometimes you're flat. But I think spirituality is where I connect with folks, and through prayer that's gotten me through a lot of hard times. And then work, it's, I when I had my first relapse, I did not. It took me a while to get back on my feet, but the second time around, I went back to work right away, and it kind of like sped up my recovery. And so work, it gives me self-esteem, self-worth. It gives me a sense of accomplishment. I get to use it's an outlet for my talents and my energies. And so I don't know, I just see it as a very effective recovery tool.
And then finally, we have to wrap up. But you did mention that there were some role models that you had too, with, including someone named Richard Weingarten, who was who helped you along. He was like a mentor, and so we're not gonna have time to talk about all of that because we're gonna have to wrap up. But I just want to thank you very much for being on the show, and the topic is alternatives. That there are alternatives. We went to the alternatives conference, and there are alternatives to how you choose to live your life. And so I want to thank Amina Hines for being on the show, and I want to thank the audience for watching, and I want to thank Josh Kelly for doing production, and Abigail White for Madison Cable Access Group, and Antoinette Jalbert for doing distribution, and Katrina Skiana for doing the website, because I just couldn't do all this by myself, and I'm very grateful for all the help that I have. So thank you, and we'll see you again next month.